It was 2018, and I had just moved to the city for a fresh start. One Friday night, I decided to check out this new club everyone was raving about. The place was packed, the music was thumping, and the drinks were flowing. I spotted this girl, Emily, across the dance floor. She was stunning, with an infectious smile and eyes that drew you in. We hit it off immediately. We danced, laughed, and shared a few too many shots. The night was a blur of neon lights, pounding beats, and stolen kisses. It was clear we were both there for a good time, nothing more. As the night wore on, we ended up back at my place, and it was wild. One of those nights you just know you'll be telling stories about for years. By morning, Emily was gone, and I figured that was the end of it. It was a one-night thing, just like we both wanted. Or so I thought. A couple of days later, I noticed her at the coffee shop I frequent. She waved and smiled, and I, trying to be polite, waved back. The next day, she was there again. Then she showed up at the gym I go to, the supermarket, even outside my apartment building. It was like she was everywhere I turned. At first, I thought it was just coincidence. Maybe we just had similar routines. But then she started approaching me, trying to talk, asking why I hadn't called her. "Hey, Emily," I said one day at the coffee shop, trying to keep things light. "What's going on? I didn't expect to see you here again." "I just thought we had a great night," she replied, her eyes wide and intense. "I thought we had a connection." "Look, it was just a one-night thing," I said, trying to be gentle but firm. "I'm not looking for anything more." Her face fell, but she didn't say anything. I thought maybe she got the message, but things only got worse. She started leaving notes on my car, slipping letters under my door. They ranged from sweet declarations of love to angry, almost threatening messages. It was clear she wasn't handling the rejection well. One night, around 3 a.m., I was jolted awake by a noise outside my window. My heart pounded as I peered through the blinds. There she was, standing in the parking lot, staring up at my apartment. The streetlight cast an eerie glow on her face, making her look almost ghostly. I felt a chill run down my spine. This wasn't normal. That's when I decided to get away for a bit. My cousin and I had this routine from when we were younger. Whenever things got too intense, we'd go to the beach, smoke some weed, and just chill. It was late, around 11 p.m., when I picked her up. We lived in a beach town and would frequent different public beaches to keep it random, especially since weed wasn't decriminalized yet back in 2008. The entrance to this particular beach was down a steep road. Once you came down the hill, the road flattened out to a long, single-row parking lot overlooking the water. We were always on the lookout for cops, as their cars were easily identifiable from the hill. That night, we parked in the lot right next to the sand and started our usual activities. The occasional car would come down the hill and park or leave, but for the most part, we were alone. Until a minivan came down the hill and pulled into the lot. They didn't park but sat for a few minutes with their headlights pointed straight at the driver's side of my car. My cousin and I were getting annoyed since the car was blinding us, and we debated leaving. Then the car drove to the end of the lot, past where we were, and turned around, pointing their lights directly on the passenger side of the car. Now we were starting to get paranoid, hoping they were just looking for someone. With relief, they finally seemed to leave. But as they passed the back of my car, the minivan stopped, blocking me in completely. We kept trying to look in our mirrors to see who was in the car and what they were doing, giving them the benefit of the doubt of maybe being lost. This quickly subsided when we heard one of the doors open. I turned to my cousin and said, "We need to get out of here." I quickly turned on my car and gunned it forward onto the sand, my only option. Somehow, my car had traction, and I managed to turn around on the beach and back onto the paved parking lot toward the entrance. The minivan immediately followed us as I sped up the hill out of the beach. They kept my speed down the street while my cousin and I screamed in terror. Fortunately, I grew up in the surrounding neighborhood and managed to lose them after some quick turns and prayers. We never saw the van again and stayed away from the beach for a while. Looking back, it seemed like it could have easily been something sinister. But even now, the memory of that night, the fear, the headlights, and the stalking, reminds me of Emily. Always there, like a ghost that refused to be laid to rest.
It was 2015, and I had just broken up with this girl named Lily. We had been together for a year, and things had started out great. But as time went on, it became clear that we weren't right for each other. The breakup was messy, a flurry of angry texts and late-night phone calls, but eventually, we managed to end it. Or so I thought. Lily wasn't one to take no for an answer. At first, it was just texts and calls, her begging me to reconsider. "We can fix this," she'd say. "Just give us another chance." I'd politely decline, hoping she'd get the hint. But she didn't. The messages kept coming, more insistent, more desperate. A couple of weeks after the breakup, I started noticing her around my apartment complex. It was subtle at first. I'd see her car parked down the street or catch a glimpse of her in the supermarket. I told myself it was just a coincidence, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. Lily was always there, lurking on the periphery of my life, like a shadow I couldn't shake. One night, around 3 a.m., I was jolted awake by a noise outside my window. My heart pounded as I peered through the blinds. There she was, standing in the parking lot, staring up at my apartment. The streetlight cast an eerie glow on her face, making her look almost ghostly. I felt a chill run down my spine. This wasn't normal. The next day, I decided to go visit my parents to clear my mind. I hadn't been home in a while, and I figured it'd be a good escape. My dad, always the early riser, had just finished his night shift and offered to drive me back to my apartment the next morning since my car was acting up. He's a big guy, ex-military, and I always felt safe when he was around. So, at 3 a.m., we got into his car and headed back to my place. It was all very normal until we hit this stretch of road. It should have been a straight shot back, but out of nowhere, this thick fog rolled in. It was like a horror film. We couldn't see a thing, even with the high beams on. My dad came up with the idea of keeping close to the car in front of us. It worked for a while, but then we lost sight of it. So there we were, 4:30 a.m., in the middle of nowhere, trying to find our way home. We came across this tunnel, and by this time, I was stressed out. I begged my dad not to go down it, but he did anyway. The tunnel was incredibly short, but on the other side, it opened into a small town. Hand on my heart, as soon as we emerged, people came out of their houses and just stared at us. It was like some children of the corn shit. They just kept staring. My dad backed us out of that tunnel, and it took us another hour to find our way home. By then, the sun was coming up. I thought the weird night was over, but when I got back to my apartment, there was a note on my door. It was from Lily. "I miss you," it read. "Please don't make me disappear." That was it. I called the police and filed for a restraining order. They advised me to change my number and consider moving. I took their advice, and things finally started to calm down. But I'll never forget that night. The fog, the tunnel, the staring townsfolk. And Lily, always there, like a ghost that refused to be laid to rest.
I wake to the familiar buzz of my phone. My head pounds from last night's revelry. I was at Murphy's, the local dive where my admirers flocked. Being the town's unofficial superstar had its perks. Free drinks, constant attention, and the occasional scandalous glance from married women. Texts and calls from these ladies were routine, but one message today sends a chill down my spine. "Did you sleep well?" It's from her. The girl who won't leave me alone. Her name is Mia, and she's different from the others. Her infatuation borders on the obsessive. The first time she approached me, I thought she was just another fan. She was plain, almost forgettable, but her eyes had a strange intensity. I brushed it off, enjoyed her compliments, and moved on. But she didn't. At first, it was cute. She'd show up at the bar, lingering in the background, staring. Then the gifts started. Small, unsettling things. A lock of her hair, a photo of me taken from a distance, and once, a piece of jewelry I thought I'd lost. I shudder, pushing the thoughts away, and drag myself out of bed. The sunlight pierces through the curtains, casting harsh shadows. My reflection in the mirror shows a ruggedly handsome face, albeit with dark circles under the eyes. I splash water on my face and try to shake off the unease. The phone buzzes again. Another text. "I saw you last night. You looked so happy." I drop the phone, the message hitting me like a punch to the gut. She was there, watching me. I scan the room, paranoia creeping in. I half expect to see her lurking in the shadows, her eyes boring into me. But it's just my messy room, clothes strewn about, a testament to last night's chaos. I grab my jacket and head out. The town's early morning quiet is a stark contrast to the vibrant nightlife I'm accustomed to. As I walk down Main Street, I nod to the familiar faces. They smile back, unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath my cool exterior. At the coffee shop, I order my usual. The barista, Cindy, gives me a flirtatious smile. "Rough night?" "You could say that," I reply, forcing a smile. She hands me the coffee, her fingers lingering on mine for a moment too long. I can feel eyes on me, and I know it's not just Cindy's. I turn, half expecting to see Mia. But she's not there. Just the regulars, absorbed in their own worlds. I step outside, sipping the hot coffee, hoping it will steady my nerves. My phone buzzes again. Another text. "Enjoying your coffee?" My heart races. I look around, scanning the street. No sign of her. I feel exposed, vulnerable. She's watching me, always watching. I can't escape her gaze. I decide to go for a drive, hoping to clear my head. As I drive through the countryside, the winding roads and open fields offer a temporary respite. But the feeling of being watched never leaves. I turn on the radio, the familiar tunes doing little to soothe my frayed nerves. After what feels like hours, I head back to town. Dusk is settling in, casting long shadows. I pull into my driveway, the sense of dread returning. The house is dark, empty. I step inside, closing the door behind me. The silence is deafening. I flick on the lights and freeze. There, on the kitchen table, is a photo. It's of me, taken from outside the window, while I was sleeping. My blood runs cold. She's been here. Inside my house. Panic sets in. I rush to check the doors and windows, but everything seems intact. How did she get in? I collapse onto the couch, my mind racing. I need to do something, anything. I can't live like this, constantly looking over my shoulder. I hear a noise, a soft creak from upstairs. My heart leaps into my throat. I grab a kitchen knife, my hand trembling. Slowly, I ascend the stairs, every creak of the floorboards amplifying my fear. At the top of the stairs, I pause, listening. Silence. I push open my bedroom door, the knife held out in front of me. The room is empty, but something feels off. I step inside, scanning every corner. Then I see it. On the bed, a single rose. My blood runs cold. She's been here, again. I back out of the room, my heart pounding. I need to get out, to escape. As I turn to leave, I hear her voice. Soft, almost a whisper. You can't run from me. I spin around, the knife clutched tightly. But there's no one there. Just the empty room and the haunting echo of her words. I stumble down the stairs, my mind in a frenzy. I bolt out of the house, into the night. The town that once felt like my kingdom now feels like a prison. I run, not knowing where I'm going, just needing to get away. But I know, deep down, there's no escape. She's always watching, always there. And she won't leave me alone.